Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's that time of month. I'm gonna share with you everything that I read in June. I read 5 books. 2 things before we get started. The first one is that if you've been following me for the last few months, you know I just moved. The new place that I'm in is right next to a giant construction site. I think they're building another set of apartments. It goes on all day. Like literally like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's no way for me to record around it. It's probably gonna go on for a while. So I'll edit it out if I can, but if you hear weird disturbances in the background, that's what that is. Second thing, I went to Barnes & Noble in June, so I can do a little book haul for you guys real quick. So we got Katherine by R.F. Kuang. I think I have read everything that R.F. Kuang has written so far, and I have liked all of it. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm also expecting it to be devastatingly sad, considering it seems to have a similar vibe to Babel. But yeah, so I'm planning on reading that at some point this year. If you guys are interested in it, I will do a reading vlog over it, so just let me know in the comments. Next, we have The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I have loved, again, everything that T. Kingfisher has written. That's one I haven't read yet. And then The Best Dog in the World. It's a little book of essays about dogs. It looks like each chapter has the author's dog. I'm excited. There's a lot of people in here that I've read and really enjoyed. Roxane Gay, Jodi Picoult, Amy Tan. Oh, Isabel Allende. Duh. Here are my 3 books. I just realized in looking through looking for my book that I read for my prop, I did actually read 6 books. So I also read this. I'm not gonna include in the rankings because this is just kind of a very specific type of book. This is banned books for kids, and it's just a collection of books that have been challenged, and a lot of discussion questions and activities that are related to the book. And it's really great. I recommend this if you work in a school specifically. I feel like it's a really good template for, even if a book isn't in here, you can look at the book and then come up with your own questions. So I really highly recommend this, but it is a very specific type of resource that I read through it because I've worked in a lot of libraries. So, and I have an interest in banned books, obviously. I have a whole video on it. I also read that. I'm not going to include it in my general list. With that being said, there were actually 3 things. There were 3 little notes I had to make at the beginning, but we're finally ready to get into the books and ignore my bright orange note card that I usually hide from you all, that I've been waving around like a crazy person. So I pretty much liked everything I read. I think I read some great things this month. There seems to be a theme of women this month for some reason. Our first book about women, at number 5, is How to Kill a Witch, The Patriarchy's Guide to Silencing Women by Zoe Venditozzi and Claire Mitchell. This book is basically a breakdown of the Scottish witch trials. It goes over like the literature and the mythology about witches. It goes through like the legal process of accusing and trying a witch. And then kind of near the end, it shows like why this is still relevant today. I didn't know much about the European witch trials. Most of what I know about it is from Salem. So it was cool to put the Salem witch trials into context. It's cool to learn some history. They did a really great job breaking it down. It was really interesting to see like the witch trials kind of as a mechanism in society, if that makes sense. So parts 1 and 2, loved it. It was great. I learned so much. Part 3 was what pissed me off, and it's the reason it's at the bottom of this list. Still a 3-star book, still very good, but I feel like they really shot themselves in the leg. So part 3 of the book is talking about important issues, like how literal witch hunts still happen in parts of Africa because of colonization, basically. That's a very brief explanation of what's going on. That was really interesting. But then they tried to make the argument that like Western civilizations, so in their case the UK and then the US too, are very, very close to literally accusing women of being witches and hanging them. And that's where I think that they just really missed a great opportunity. Because I think what is so fascinating about the witch trials and why they were such a prolific part of, culture, I'm forgetting the centuries, but 1600s roughly, is because there was such the legal mechanism to it. It was built into the law. I don't feel like that argument really makes sense. I'm not saying they're wrong necessarily, but I do think that religious violence like that is a lot more fringe now than it was at the time. I think, and I'm going to use the US as an example for how I think this argument could have been far better, how this part of the book could have been far better, but I'm sure that there's very similar political issues happening in Scotland. I'm just a dumb American, and I'm way more tuned into what's happening right here. There are a lot of legal mechanisms that are controlling reproductive health for women and give the government the power to persecute women who they deem evil, limiting access to abortion, to birth control, to maternal health care, to child resources. All of that sort of thing is very much part of our political system right now, and even in areas where it's relatively pro-choice, you're still going to see elements of women being punished for making choices about their own bodies. So I feel like if they had gone for a reproductive health argument and been like, it's the same thing happening, we're still accusing women of being evil, but we're doing it in a different way, I think that would have been a wonderful argument, and I think that would have been a great application of the research they did. So I really wish they would have done it. It's still a good book, but I feel like they just wanted to focus way too much on the witchcraft part of it and not the patriarchy silencing women part of it, if that makes sense. So again, I gave it 3 stars. It won the Goodreads Choice Awards, so clearly a lot of people liked it. It was worth reading, and I am happy I read it, but those are my critiques. So at number 4, we have a book that I think I added to my TBR in 2019. This is Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bashardoust. This is a YA fantasy novel. I think it's based on Persian mythology, if I remember correctly, if I'm not confusing it with something else. The main character has a curse where anything she touches dies. She goes on this quest to free herself from this curse, and in the process she unleashes a greater evil and has to confront the evil. So it's pretty basic YA fantasy, there's a love triangle, there's a quest, there's a betrayal, she's really insecure. I don't read a whole lot of YA fantasy specifically anymore because I really hate when those tropes are just kind of used and there's nothing else added, and a lot of books tend to do that. This had enough, she was playing within the mold of a pretty typical YA fantasy, but it was enough that I still enjoyed it. I ate it up. I did end up liking the main character. She had a pretty good arc. I think if it had been a series, I would have gone annoyed with her, but for one book, she was great. And I love how it kind of set up a love triangle with 2 boys, and then she ended up with a girl. I thought that was very fun. The mythology was really cool, so I really enjoyed that. I think I gave it 4 stars. Not my preferred genre, but still very fun, and I'm glad I finally read it. So next we have The Penguin Book of Witches by Katherine Howe. I read this immediately after reading How to Kill a Witch, and honestly, I very much recommend it. This is just an edited collection of a bunch of primary sources from witch trials in Europe and mostly Salem, honestly. It is mostly Salem, which makes it a little different than the other one, which was mostly focused on the Scotch witch trials. But a lot of the testimonies and accounts that are mentioned in that book are also mentioned in this. So it was very fun to read that book and then read this and basically see for yourself what these resources say. And I honestly, even if you don't do that and read them together, I recommend reading this one anyway, because if you're interested in this sort of thing, because it becomes really obvious after you read a few of the accounts from the Salem witch trials that the accused witches were just agreeing with whatever their captor witch hunters wanted them to say. Like, even in, 2 pages, sometimes they changed what they were saying. Like, it really, like, reading that, it really kind of, for me, just, I didn't really think this anyway, but dispelled any of the conspiracy theories around the Salem witch trials, where it's mass hysteria, it's moldy bread. I feel like there's another one. It's zombies, I think, is another. No, that's Roanoke. There's another weird conspiracy theory about Salem, and I can't remember what it is right now. But yeah, it's like so obvious that the economy is just really bad, and these people are like settling petty grievances to blow off steam. Like, it's such a circus, honestly, and I have found it fascinating to read. Awful, obviously, but it's just like, man, you had me reading The Crucible in high school and not this. This is so much more useful for understanding what the hell was going on. I recommend it. I'm glad I read it. So on to number 2. This is Moreta, Dragonlady of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. I'm still reading the Dragon Riders of Pern, and I will continue to. I actually was in a bookstore over this past weekend, and I checked to see if they had any of Anne McCaffrey's books, and they did. It was a used bookstore, so they were all used copies, and they had some nice hardcover ones, but I was like, I can't justify this. I'm like, if they have the next 2 on my list, I will get them. But if not, I'm not getting any books. And I walked away without any books. It takes place far before the events of the first 6 books. It's a plague story. These like sailors capture this cat and they bring it back to the mainland, and they don't realize the cat has a disease. And then it's some version of the flu, and it spreads really quickly and kills a bunch of people. The first kind of half of the book is figuring out how to treat the people who've gone sick and kind of just worldwide panic. There's a quarantine. It was giving me COVID flashbacks, honestly, a little bit. It took me a really long time to get through it. And then the second half is them distributing the vaccine, basically. It's really sad. It's really sad the way it ends. And one of the things I love about this series is just every book is kind of different. Like, you have the adventures, but you also have the political intrigue, and then you have like this behind the scenes sort of thing happening, and then you have Blake's story. So I'm gonna continue reading it. I think the next one is Novelka's story. I didn't like this one as much as some of the others. Like the Harper Hall trilogy, perfection. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars instead of my usual 5, but it was still very good. I think honestly the only reason I didn't like it is because it was giving me COVID flashbacks. At number 1, my favorite book of the month, we have A Sweet Sting of Salt by Rose Sutherland. This is a historical romance, and it's basically an adaptation of The Selkie Wife. If you know The Selkie Wife, then you know exactly what's gonna happen throughout the book. I don't think that ruins it. I still enjoyed every minute of it. It made me cry. A romance book made me cry. This should not be allowed. The premise of it is that the main character, Jean, is a midwife. One night, she's just kind of walking on the beach, and she finds this woman in labor who can't speak any English. So she takes her home, takes care of her, finds her husband, and then as she befriends this woman, she realizes there's something really wrong with their relationship. She's trying to befriend this woman and then also get her away from her evil husband. And they fall in love eventually, obviously. I had a great time reading it. I flew through it. I couldn't put it down at some points. So if you like historical romance and you're looking for a sapphic one, that's a good sapphic one right there. I enjoyed that very much. I think I gave it 4 stars. I might bump it up to 5 stars. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. But yes, so those are my 5 books. That is everything I read in June. Like I said, we have women, and some of them are gay. For July, I haven't totally decided what I'm gonna read. I think this is gonna be the month that I commit myself to Wuthering Heights. So I was gonna read this back in February before I went and saw Wuthering Heights, and then I saw some reviews for Wuthering Heights, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna piss me off. Because you can see this. So I've been putting it off, but we're gonna try and do it this month. And then I think I wanna try and read this book. I'm really interested in it. So this might be my nonfiction book for the month. I need to go and track my nonfiction because I think I'm behind. I don't like reading nonfiction, but it makes me feel smart, so I continue to do it. But I have to I have to be conscientious about it, because otherwise I'll just read books about dragons. I should get a nonfiction book about dragons. So many doors just opened for me. Anyway, those are all the books I have. I'll come back in another month and I'll share with you what I read in July. Let me know what you read in June. Share it in the comments. What was your favorite book of June? What are you planning on reading in July? Have you read any of these books? What did you think? Let me know. I would really appreciate it if you like this video. If you subscribe, come hang out. We have fun over here. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. We'll have some more fun. Pray for my sanity during this construction. Bye!